I so disagree with
Oh,
normalizing and saying it's all genetics.
I saw that.
What a generation ago, we didn't
Mhm.
have that amount of obesity. So you want to tell us that a complete evolution have happened over a generation? No, it's just normal to put on a health magazine or beauty magazine or any magazine a person who weighs 400 pounds, and not because the person they are. You can weigh 400 pounds and be successful, whatever it is, and it's fine. You should be on the cover of the magazine, but not under the title of healthy,
Right.
because that's not health.
Karin, tell the audience a little bit about what you do.
Okay, so what I do. So in the past 16 years, I'm a nutritionist. I'm also a health coach and a life coach and trainer, but I mainly focus on health and weight. That would be my two main things. It started as a very personal journey and background. I suffered from severe eating disorders my entire life. Started at a very early age. I was around 11. And food was always like a battle for me. I was underweight. I was overweight. I tried every diet in the book. I was almost hospitalized. I think like emotional eating and self-hatred was kind of my second name. I always say it like I was in a prison inside my mind, inside my head. And I couldn't break free, because a person who has this, like, obsession, whether it's under eating or overeating, the constant dieters, there's like this obsession constantly towards food that we need to break. And that was one of the things that I struggled. And then in Israel, where I grew up, it's mandatory to do the army. I was recruited to the army, and after 2 years, like every good Israeli, I went to travel the world after I got released. And I traveled the Far East, and for the first time in my life, a little bit more of as an adult, I actually, I had fun. I felt that I can enjoy the moment. I can enjoy life. I can do something that is a little bit different from that perspective. And then when I came back home, all the demons, all the thoughts, all of the habits of, fat burners and working out like crazy and all the stupid diets came back. And I needed to make a decision whether I'm choosing, myself or the disease. And I chose myself, my health, my sanity. And that from their point, I went to therapy, and I also decided that it wasn't a career that I wanted to pursue, but I wanted to go learn it for my self-healing. And from my self-healing, I always say that the profession chose me. I didn't choose it. And that's where it started. So at a very early age, I partnered with a very successful nutritionist back in Israel. We started a business. It grew really quickly. At like 26, I managed like 20 nutritionists and dietitians. And we developed, amazing training programs. After that, I relocated to New York, where I continued my studies. And then I worked at Reebok Sports Club, where I managed their nutrition department, worked for Nike for a while. And then 8 years ago, I moved to LA, which is what I did today. I work for myself. I built a company. We do online weight loss. Health and weight is our thing. I published 3 recipe books, and luckily, I don't know, throughout the years, we probably have helped 20, 30,000 men and women around the world.
Wow.
Very passionate about it. And I love what I do, and I can go on and on, but that's like the shortest that I could.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I saw, I think it was an interview you did, and you basically talked, it was like, obviously like health and weight loss, but also it talked about how there's like a hormone in our bodies that if you're resistant to it, it actually makes weight loss more difficult. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So our body is basically, our body is a hormonal system. Okay. Completely. Now, one of the things that we're not aware of is that how much it affects our body. We always talk about weight loss, as a matter of calorie deficit, calories in, calories out, and whatever it is. One of the things that we forget is that our body is a very smart, sophisticated, efficient machine. Okay. And we're basically hormones, and we're really run by that. There's 9 hormones that mainly control our weight. So it's leptin and ghrelin and insulin and cortisol and all of kind of hormones. That hormone that specifically you're talking about is called leptin. So leptin is basically, we call it the satiety hormone, and ghrelin is the hunger hormone. So they kind of correlate together. So how leptin works is this: once you eat, the body fat in your body goes up, okay? And then once your body fat goes up, the brain gets a signal, okay, that you now ate enough food, that you now feel full and satisfied, that your body fat in your body is high enough. So in case of whatever, there's no food, drought, whatever it is, you have enough storages left. So basically what you can do is A, you can now stop eating. And then B, you can also start burning calories. So leptin is in charge, A, for how fast you're going to get full. And then B, also in charge on your calorie burning. So it's basically in charge of your energy in the body. Okay. So that's the thing. Now, we do know, so you would think that people that are higher in weight, obviously they have higher body fats. So they probably have enough leptin in their body. So they probably won't feel hungry all the time. But one of the things that we've seen in studies, that the problem isn't the production of leptin, is due to resistance. So the area in our brain doesn't absorb or understand that connection that basically right now we ate enough. So one of the things that we've seen is that people that tend to be heavier suffer from leptin resistance. Now, on the other hand, we also have ghrelin, which is the hunger levels. And then the ghrelin comes, we can see people that do huge gaps between meals. And I'm not talking about intermediate fasting or keto. I'm talking about, I didn't eat throughout the day, and then I come home and I eat everything that comes along my way. So ghrelin levels really go up. So hunger levels really go up, and you cannot be satisfied. So that's why you keep on eating and eating. We do see that people that tend to be, heavier or obese and etc., usually skip a lot of meals and eat more at night. And then second, people that have done extreme diets, and extreme diets, the definition is under 1,200 calories a day, their ghrelin levels go so crazy up that once they finish the diet, and we all finish the diet, that's the reason why they gain weight so rapidly and even more than what they started off with, is just because they have uncontrolled hunger. So it's it doesn't matter how much you try to trick your body. It kind of come bite you in the ass, if I can say that.
Right.
It doesn't really work. You need to work with that and not against it.
Right. So with leptin, is it something that you can test for it? How do people know if they're resistant to leptin? It's just that they're a little overweight. Is that like indicator?
So the majority of the people will be probably leptin resistant. You can check the leptin the amount of leptin in your body, but that won't help you because, again, as I said, so you can do some tests to check it. It's not so easy like insulin resistance, and you would say. We do know, by the way, that people that are leptin resistant, the theory and what the studies have shown is that eating ultra processed food can cause that. Lack of sleep, lack of proteins, and lack of resistant workouts. Now, again, it's basically,
interesting.
If you don't sleep well, if you don't eat well, if you don't rest well, it's kind of, I would say, I don't want to say it obvious because nothing is obvious, but we kind of know once you go against the body, that's, that would be the side effect.
Right.
So that's the side effect, and sleep is very correlated to weight.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting because I noticed that whenever I don't get enough sleep, I start to get more hungry, I start to be more likely to eat out, it's like, oh, dirty tacos time, like that sort of thing. So, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense, making sure your sleep levels are optimized so that way you don't just start to get all these weird cravings.
Definitely. And also another thing that happens is that once you're sleep deprived, your ghrelin levels goes up. That's one of the side effects. So it's kind of like, it always has an explanation physically.
Right.
We just don't always know how to pinpoint it. And also because we're tired, we're also looking for, available energy because we just feel fatigued as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Especially, and that could be why, like, you hear about like new dad or new mom weight, like whenever they have a new kids, they don't get enough sleep. Like I have a 7-month-old and she's she keeps me up at night sometimes, so reduces the amount of sleep. So I really have to have that willpower, to make sure I don't go into eating like crazy.
Definitely, I feel you. I also have little ones at home, so I can definitely relate and understand. And I remember that time.
Right.
A long time ago. So yeah, it does goes by, but yeah, definitely I would say increase protein on those days, increase complex carbs, increase fruits and vegetables, make sure you drink enough water, and rest whenever you can. And yes, it's temporary, it goes away. But yeah, definitely our body needs sleep. Another thing that for women, because we give birth, so one of the things is that our body like hormonally supports the woman's body to be able to be more sleep deprived.
Interesting.
Not to say that should give a green light to say, just women needs to wake up.
Right.
But what I'm saying, it's like there's something in, biologically in nature, like the men's body isn't prepared for a kid just because, it's not like you don't give birth. So it's one of the things is that what happens is through that, but definitely lack of sleep. And then again, lack of sleep, being overweight causes sleep apnea. Sleep apnea causes tiredness. That tiredness. So it's an ongoing thing.
Right. It's like a cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So I'm sure you've seen like, and through the statistics and also like whenever you walk around is like, 2/3 of Americans are obese or overweight. I think it's closer to 70% now.
Yeah.
So societally, why do you think that is? Do you think it's because our culture? Do you think it's because of the availability of all these fast foods? Every single corner has a fast food. Do you think it's because of like Americans feeling stressed out and, whenever people are stressed out, they tend to eat a little bit more. So why do you think as a society, Americans are overweight?
First of all, I think all of the above. A. B, I think there's a few things. First of all, the reason why we're overweight, never mind now the psychological and culture, is because we overeat, period.
Right.
It's not genetics, and I'm sorry, but I so disagree with normalizing and saying it's all genetics. Like
I saw that.
What? A generation ago, we didn't have that amount of obesity. So you want to tell us that a complete evolution have happened over a generation? No, it's just normalizing it. Now, I'm not saying that we do see, and that's more socially, that kids that are being raised in a low social economical with parents that are overweight are more likely to be overweight themselves, but that's cultural, behavioral, and habits and education. Okay. Right. It's not their genetics, because back in the 80s, the obesity numbers were so low. So what happened? First of all, a few things. If we go back, so it started years ago. So if we're going really back, like, I don't know, 70 something years ago, 75, World War II. So 80 years ago it started, or Vietnam or whatever it is, back in the days. The men were deployed, they were overseas, and then the women were raising the kids at home. And then the women needed to go work, because the person who was, in charge of the financial situation at the house was deployed. So a very smart way of the food companies to market their way around is they market it and to say processed food, or not processed, sorry, junk food or fast food, that's how they call it, gives women freedom. Instead of you now sitting down and cooking at home and making everything from scratch, we gave you the solution so you can go work and make money. So first of all, they really created it as a positive. They gave a solution. When we're talking about marketing one-on-one, you need to present the problem, and then you need to give them the solution.
Right.
And the problem was there, and they gave them the perfect solution. So first of all, it's been going on for much longer time than we thought it was. That's number one. And then in the culture of Americans, cooking wasn't and isn't a thing. I think it's one of the cultures that cook the least. Like I can say I come from a Middle Eastern culture. We cook. In Asia, they cook. In the Far East, they cook. In South America, they cook. Never mind, each area has their own culture of cooking, but home cooked meals is something in Europe, you know, it's a part of the culture. America is not. Not at all. That's number one. So you turn into food outside. Now, what happened in the last 30, 40 years? The food industries and technology have improved itself completely. We've seen it. Like I didn't grow up with a cell phone and a laptop and a smart Apple Watch, you know, like I don't need to tell you, like 15 years ago, life were different. So like we've seen the differences. Also, the food has changed. And the food engineering and the food scientists and the preservatives and the thickeners and the gums, you know, the gour gum and all of those things. Those also interfere with our hormonal system. Those also interfere with our brain. Those also cause so many things that our body doesn't recognize. And it's like a domino effect. It's like we keep on going and going and going. When this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, that one. Two, food is available everywhere. It's easy. Processed food tastes so good. It's addictive. You consume probably between 1,000 to 2,000 calories extra a day once you consume processed food.
Wow.
Major. We move less. And we've now started normalizing obesity.
Right.
And I'm not saying body positivity. And I'm not saying to go against, you know, the heroin chic or size zero, which I agree 100%, especially for someone who comes, you know, from, you know, eating disorders. And I grew up in the fashion industry. So I completely agree with, you know, normalizing the beauty idol and normalizing, now it's social media. Back in the days, it was beauty magazines. So I agree with that. Not everyone looked like a Victoria's Secret model. And even then, they work for it and they don't look like that year round, and it's completely fine.
Right.
But to say or to put on a health magazine or beauty magazine or any magazine, a person who weighs 400 pounds, and not because the person they are, you can weigh 400 pounds and be successful, whatever it is, and it's fine. You should be on the cover of the magazine, but not under the title of healthy.
Right.
Because that's not healthy. You can say whatever X is a famous, successful scientist, musician, artist, singer, whatever, performer. Great. They're known for their talent, for their profession. Don't sell to the people that they eat healthy, work out, and it's their genetics.
Right. Yeah, I think
kind of harsh, I know, but that's the truth.
It's not harsh. And I think that, you know, I think, what was it? The 60-minute interview, where I think one of the heads of health, you know, for the government went out and said that health and like obesity is genetic. I think that's a huge disservice, you know, because like you said, a lot of it's environmental. And the people that were born into households with obese parents, you know, they passed down lessons and they didn't really pass down, you know, the right habits to get that, you know, child to be healthy. So I think you're totally right about that. And then also the availability, you know, especially now with DoorDash and we have like Uber Eats, you can easily go and get, you know, food, unhealthy food so quickly.
It's all accessible. It's all easy. There's no need to work hard. And then then it's like you eat whatever you want, you don't move. And then they say, oh, it's genetics. Okay, so I'm fine.
Mhm.
It's like
Right.
they are like something with thriving for, and not even being great, just being better. Like, you
Mhm.
know, like, and I'm not saying like, never mind how you look, but what do you think that happens in your body when you have that weight? Like your arteries are clogged, your cholesterol is up the roof, you are for sure diabetic or have insulin resistance. You're like a, you know, you're it's not an if something will happen, it's when,
Mm. Mhm.
you know?
Right.
So it's like a clicking bomb because something will happen, like the body, and we see it. Listen, we also see now, you know, 50% of America, more than 150, 60, 80, whatever million people are diabetic or pre-diabetic.
Mm.
So we're
Wow.
yeah, crazy, like
Crazy.
crazy,
50%.
crazy, crazy.
Mhm.
So it's like, it used to be 5% diabetic, then it's 10, now it's closer to 20, and then the rest are pre-diabetic.
Mm.
No, pre-diabetic, if you're not changing your lifestyle between 2 to 5, 10 years, you're going to get diabetes. Depends where you at. Like
Right.
there's measurements, like how insulin resistant are you and how
Mhm.
abusive you are in your body. Now
Mm.
it's treatable and curable in the beginning parts, you know, like you can
Mhm.
switch it if you'll you have insulin resistance and you're not going to change your lifestyle, you're going to change your diet, you're going to change your activity, you're going to improve your sleep. Yes. And we're now talking about by 2050 that about 30 to 40% of the population will have diabetes already. And we're now, by the way, seeing kids that are 12, 13, 14 that have type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
Never in the history of the literature we had that.
Mhm.
We had type 1 diabetes. Yes. Type 2, never. Our
Right.
pancreas is meant to last more than 13 years,
Mhm.
but we abuse food. We abuse our body.
Right.
We normalize it by justifying it. And I'm all about the positivity, not about getting sick.
Right. So if you were in charge, right? Let's say, Karin, you are the president of making sure that our society is healthy. What would you do, to start getting people back in shape, to get people to not be obese anymore, to bring the diabetes down, to make people healthy again?
It's it's a great question. I think first of all, the first thing that I would do, and one of my beliefs is to educate people, to bring them
Mhm.
to awareness. That's number one. Number two, I think it needs to be more accessible, and I think it needs to be simplified. Okay, because
Mm.
one of the things is that today, there's two things. First, the comprehension of healthy foods in most people's idea is expensive. It's
Mm.
unaffordable. It's for the rich and famous or whatever it is, the people that are comfortably.
Mhm.
Um, and then the second thing, it would be to show how simple it is. Now, another thing that I want to tell you is that the diet industries are a big part of the obesity.
Hmm.
They are major players in this. And I wouldn't be surprised and I don't know, I really don't know because I've never researched that. If some of the biggest food companies or industries are also the biggest one behind some of the biggest diets.
Mm.
Like they have that, forgot the name, the pandemic that they had with the drugs, the opiates, the opiates,
Mm. Mhm.
and they had it. And that the pharmaceutical companies that were manufacturing that were also the ones
Right.
building the rehabilitation centers. They were like in both
Mhm.
sides of the equation. They were creating the addiction and then they were treating the addiction. So they
Right.
were making money on both sides. Now, it's kind of funny. I'm a dietitianist, I'm a nutritionist. I'm saying that diets are the reason for obesity.
Mhm.
So I'll explain. So I said what I said at the beginning when we're going back into the culture, but we also seen that back in the 70s, the 80s, the obesity were much lower. Yes, the food industries were different. Everything was different, but also diets were not as trendy. What do the diets do? They create the constant dieter method. They
Mm.
create really strong impossible food rules. Okay. And then basically what they do is that they make people believe that only if you do XYZ to very extreme measures, eat 500 calories a day, starve yourself, I don't know, drink a green shake and a chicken breast all day long, only then you would be able to lose weight and succeed. No one does it. No one can succeed with it for long term. Everyone can do it for short term. And then what happens is that the diet ends. The person feels like a failure. Even if they succeeded to lose weight, they usually gain all the weight back.
Right.
And then they give up, and then their motivation deteriorates, and then either they gave up and they gain a lot of weight, or they're searching for the next trend. And the diet industries, I think, is one of the 3 biggest industries in America.
Wow.
It's huge.
Crazy.
It's growing every year by between 10 to 20%.
Jeez.
Yes. So the diet industries teaches you diets, but no one teaches you lifestyle. Lifestyle isn't instant. Lifestyle is a journey. Lifestyle is balance. And we now glorify extremeness in everything.
Right.
We see it also on social media, the people that are very, upfront, or people that are very extreme, or people that are very controversial in every aspect, in all, things, they are in the forefront. Because we became this like divide and conquer and fighting over and all of those things. And the same with the diets. Now we see the omeprazole and Saxenda, like the diet shots, like, the obesity, diabetes, the diabetes ones. Which again, it's suppressing the appetite. They're going to suppress the appetite, they're going to starve, and then they're going to gain the weight back. And it's a very known cycle. So the re-education is so heavy. So one of the things that I see with my clients, so the people that come to me that are more clueless from the diet industries, like if a person now comes to me, to my office or in one of my groups, that never done a diet in his life, diet, I mean weight loss diet, okay? Clueless, has some sort of like, it's okay, whether it comes for weight loss or for health, but like he now wants to. So I'm explaining to him, I'm educating him, I'm building him a plan, and we're good to go. He's starting. Of course, there's struggles, there are difficulties in whatever it is. But there's no conversation, I've done this, and there's no limiting beliefs, and there's no myth, and there's no failures, and there's no misconception that she or he been hearing for so many years. Now I see a client that this is their 20th diet, whether they unlocked their jars, or whether they took the shots, or whether they took food suppressors, or whether they've done keto and ACG, whatever, any kind of diet. I now have a whole history of failure, successes, limiting thoughts, misconceptions, myth, and extreme things that I now need to clean up before I can even go and work with them.
Right.
So those shortcuts are very pricey.
Right.
And people don't get it, and they're not educated about. So what we push diets. What do we push? We push Band-Aids. What do we push? We push medications. And everyone are looking for the shorter thing. And then again, if you would make fruits and vegetables available, if you would, instead of having fast food that is fried chicken, you would put a chicken breast even in a bun. And instead of fried fries, you would even put rice, like don't even go and just sell a salad. Just, just improve it. Instead of selling soda, just sell sparkling water, and instead of selling 80 ounces, whatever crazy, sizes they sell small ones. Don't make it so accessible. So it's everything, like it's the habits, it's the education, it's the understanding. It's like, it's a whole cycle that we need to do, and it needs to start in schools. It needs to start, like they need to have education on nutrition, on healthy lifestyle from day one.
Right.
And not what they do now.
Yeah.
This is a joke. And hot lunches in school, it's a disaster. It's a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's so many different problems that are creating this, and we have to kind of tackle each problem,
Yeah, of
and there's, like you said, there's profit motive, like a lot of
course.
the companies, they want to sell their product, especially to the kids at school and make that, kind of like something that they're used to, so that way they eat it later on in life, so it's definitely a huge, huge problem. Now, one thing you mentioned was limiting beliefs. So
Yeah.
I hear that a lot, actually, like a lot of people, they're like, I've tried every single diet and none of them work for me. So can you talk a little bit more about like limiting beliefs and, working with those types of people? Like, how do you usually get them to change their mind, and remove that limiting belief?
So limiting beliefs is one of the things that I think we all suffer from, right? We're
Mhm.
conditioned to think like the best, way for me to explain to someone what is a limiting belief, I can say, let's go back to the times of the circus. Okay.
Mhm.
And then let's take a baby elephant. And then when the elephant is born, it's born huge, but it's still a baby elephant. And then
Mhm.
they put like a little handcuff, around his ankle. And every time he tries to pushes it, he cannot because he's stuck, because it's strong enough to contain him because he's small enough. So
Mhm.
the first time he tried to push or pull, he cannot. The second time he cannot. The third time he realized, and then of course he also gets some sort of a thing like in front of the person, in front of the human being, in front of his boss, trainer, whatever, or like alpha person, that if he moves or he doesn't obey, it's terrible. Yeah, that like
Mhm.
abuse, but that's a different conversation. But basically what he learns, that if he doesn't listen to his master,
Mhm.
something will happen and he's not strong enough to move. Whatever, a year or two later, I don't know when elephants are fully grown, they can kill a human being by just, slapping them. It's like easy for
Mhm.
them. But what happened? He's conditioned and he
Mhm.
learned that he was a baby,
Mhm.
that the master is stronger, that he's weak, that he cannot move because he was tied when he was a baby. That's a
Mhm.
limiting belief.
Mhm.
It's what he believes that stops him from basically doing what he wants. When in
Mhm.
reality, maybe if he now see an elephant in nature, he would be like, what is this? He's
Mhm.
stronger. He can throw the human. The master doesn't, rule him. He doesn't obey to him, but he doesn't see it because there's only a few, elephants, one or two in the circus, and the other ones are also trained. So it's the
Mhm.
same in here. So the limiting beliefs is something that we all grow with,
Mhm.
whether as women are physically not as strong as men, which is true and not true, but again, we go into that, okay?
Mhm.
Whether is it like I grew up in a family that is successful, I believe that I'm successful. I grew up in a family
Mhm.
that told me that I'm a failure, that I cannot do, that I cannot accomplish, then my beliefs will be that I'm always a failure, that I cannot accomplish. So it's like it goes back and back, and we are completely limiting beliefs of
Mhm.
everything. Some of us break those limiting beliefs, but again, to a certain extent. So when we meet the world of diets or weight loss, we have limiting beliefs, whether it's too hard, whether I'm a victim, whether I need to sacrifice, whether I need to give up, and whether I'm not able to do that because I've done it in the past and I've failed. So why would I make such a big effort?
Mhm.
So there's something that holds us back all the time. And also society in general doesn't encourage a person, like you go out to a restaurant. I'm not saying everyone, but I'm saying in general. And it's like you decide to skip the dessert and the bread, which you're all in, allowed to. Oh, really? You're on a diet. You're not eating the dessert. You're not
Mhm.
eating the bread. Oh, I feel so sorry for you. We're like encouraging bad eating instead of like
Right.
congratulating healthy eating.
Yeah.
So it's a well-rounded thing. And then again, every diet that you've done, you create another limiting belief. Every something extreme that you went to, you believe that that's the only way to lose weight.
Right.
So if my belief is, when I want to lose weight, I need to give up on everything that I like to eat. I need to suffer. I need to be a victim. I need to be hungry. Then by default, our conscious and subconscious doesn't want to suffer, doesn't want to be hungry, doesn't want to be a victim, doesn't want to be miserable. So we choose not to.
Interesting. So you bring it to their awareness, right? The
Yeah.
limiting belief. Is there another step? I mean, after you bring it to the awareness, are they like all of a sudden no more limiting beliefs, or like what else do they have to do to like unshackle that?
So then we start breaking them down slowly and slowly, like, what are the limiting beliefs? And let's see differently. Maybe because you chose extreme diet that are black and white, like I'm perfect, I'm just eating chicken breast and lettuce and that. And then you want to eat like a tray of pizza and 20 cookies because you were starving. And the truth lays in that maybe have a salad with one slice of pizza, or maybe have a cookie a day and not 7 a day. It's like, again, that all or white, black or white, all or nothing. Another thing, people that are constant dieters also have habits. They're a slave to the scale. If the scale doesn't show them the result, they break. If they don't see a result after a week, they break. And then I say, okay, like everything that you do after a week, you achieve success. Like, what is it in your life that you've done for 1 week and you achieved great success? Probably nothing. Nothing. Maybe you started seeing something, but it's like at the beginning. But no, when it comes to weight loss, I ate now healthier, or I stopped drinking soda. It means I deserve to now lose weight. If I haven't lost weight, F it, I'm just doing whatever I want to do. So there's a lot of things that I need to peel, like stop blaming others, start taking responsibility, seeing where you at, reflection. Are we measuring the result? Are we measuring the journey? Are you just telling me that the scale is the only way of success, measure of success? Or is it that you're feeling better, looking better, sharper, sleeping better, eating healthy, giving your body what it needs? Like, what's the measure for you? How do you measure your success? So it's a lot. And you kind of see the same behaviors repeating themselves over and over again for the majority of people.
Interesting.
But we're kind of making weight loss with the years like an impossible mission, which shouldn't be. And it starts in an early age. If we would start without introducing junk food and fast food at such an early age, if we wouldn't, give our kids sugar 7 times a day. And don't be mistaken, I give my kids sugar and I have processed food in the house. Yeah, I'm not like my kids go to preschool, they're not. We cannot also go the extreme way, because once you deprive completely, they'll go and, eat everything that comes along the way. So it needs to be balanced. But when I'm seeing a 2-year-old with a can of soda, it's for me, and I'm never going to say anything, and I'm never going to judge anyone. I feel sorry for the kid because I know how addictive it is. I know what sugar causes them. And I know how hard it is to then change your habits. So the education needs to start at a very early age.
It's funny because yesterday I had a conversation with a sales coach.
Yeah.
And I asked him, what are you doing when you're coaching someone?
Yeah.
And he said almost the exact same thing. First, I got to work with their mental, like they had this sort of misconception and limiting beliefs around sales and how they'll never be a great salesman, or they feel, uncomfortable doing sales or all these things. And it seems like here now I'm talking to you as a health coach, and the first thing you do is work with people's limiting beliefs, so it kind of shows you the power of your mind.
Everything, 100%. If I can tell you, and again, listen, some health coaches, nutritionists, dietitians, they only work on nutrition. After 16 years in the field, and really, I can't even tell you how many clients, you kind of realize that nutrition is a very small part of it. So for me, it needs to be nutrition, education, and coaching.
Right.
One cannot work without the other, because sometimes I know how to do everything, but you don't do. or you know and you don't really know because you're not really informed and educated. You have myth and all kind of other, crazy diets and fad diets that you've done in the past. And then lastly, it's all in your mindset. So how do you take them from point A to B or A to Z without them having a winner mindset or actually believing that they can? And the same with sales, because sales is energy, your drive, like there's no difference.
Right.
That yesterday you sold 10 and today you sold 0. The only difference is your fear. Like you excelled yesterday, you now come with high expectations that you might fail. So you give yourself excuses, which all excuses are right and legit. And the same with weight loss. It's the story that we tell to ourselves that stops us from succeeding. Now, let's say that the majority of the world understands that fast food and soda most likely is not going to help them lose weight or become healthier, but they still do it.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like you're a psychologist first, or you're a therapist first.
Yeah. Because again, it's like, it's the food, it's like the meal plans. Okay, so I get it, but it's like, and again, it makes my job harder. It makes my job more, I don't want to say complicated, but like it makes my job not as simple, because I don't just tell you, oh, this is calories in, this is calories out, 4 grams, this is 9 grams, and then you go. But again, because I truly want their success, and I believe that a true change cannot happen if you don't develop those set of skills. And again, it's not for everyone, but I think it's the biggest gift you can give to yourself if you do that.
Absolutely. So you mentioned about, not calling it a diet, creating a lifestyle for yourself. So what have you found to be like the most useful for people to lose weight? Like should everybody have the same lifestyle? Is every lifestyle going to be different? Tell me about the variability whenever you help someone create a lifestyle.
So I think, yes, it changes and it varies. I think that the base of everyone is eating real whole foods. I don't think anyone can say that it's negative. Right. Some will say eat more meat, some eat less meat, some say vegan, some don't eat spinach, and all that. No one can say that ultra processed food has any advantages of eating raw foods. So that would be the base for everyone. Cutting back on processed food, especially ultra processed food. So it's like there's natural food, which is like tomatoes, and there's processed food like tomato paste. So like the tomato turned into tomato paste, and it's now have 5-6 ingredients. And then the tomato paste turned into a frozen dinosaur pizza with 26 ingredients that can last in the refrigerator for 3 years. Right. That's ultra processed food. Ultra processed food interferes with your hunger levels, with your leptin, with your ghrelin, with your satiety level. The food is so much tastier, so you eat more. It interferes with everything in your body. Ultra processed food is one of the biggest problems that we have and that we see today. So my first thing would be that. Number 2, routine. We've seen, whether it's in studies or whether it's in blue zones, which is the 5 areas in the world of the healthiest people, that the routine is more critical than their food choices. And every person, I promise you, that you're going to talk to and is in a normal weight, you're going to talk to them and they have some sort of routine set up. They didn't reinvent the wheel. They're not doing anything crazy. They probably have a good structure and routine. They eat breakfast, they eat lunch, they eat late breakfast and a meal, whatever it is. They have some sort of structure. And you can see that. You can see that, let's say, with the Japanese people, that they have it really set. Something, even go to China. China, in the areas where the Western diet isn't thriving, they're all in a great shape. And where McDonald's and Taco Bell's took over, you've seen the numbers are rising.
Yeah, having routine is so powerful. I mean, I remember that in college, I found something that really worked for me, which is intermittent fasting. But
Great.
fast for, 16 hours and then eat within 8 hours. And I found that to be really useful for myself, and so I've been doing it since, probably close to 7 years now. And it's a routine that I just, I
Amazing.
eat between this time and this time, and it makes me happy. I am in good shape. And so having a routine is so, so crucial. And then, definitely switching my foods from from ultra processed foods to also whole foods has been really beneficial for me as well. Because I remember when I was a kid, my parents came from Vietnam, and in
Okay.
Vietnam, they grew up with very little food, right? And so when
Yeah.
they came over here, they didn't want that struggle for me and my siblings. So they kind of went the other extreme, like just give them any food, And so a lot of those foods would be from like McDonald's, In-N-Out, like Taco Bell, Little Caesar. And so that's kind of like what I grew up with. And it definitely took a lot of rewinding my sort of my habits to build a healthier lifestyle for sure.
No, definitely. So definitely, as we talked about the habits and conditions. So
Mhm.
we know that. Listen, it's like you're saying like your parents had a little bit less or whatever, people that come from poverty. We have it as the Jewish people that went through the Holocaust, so
Mhm.
it's like, the Ashkenazi Jewish, we're
Mhm.
now celebrating celebrating and symbolizing the Holocaust Day. So you hear the conversation of the second generation or third generation say we were never allowed to throw food. We were always very minimalist. We always, recycled out of everything, because they grew up with less. So I get it, but we're not in the same place anymore. Today we have too much.
Mhm.
Today, our children is the first generation in modern history that is expected to live a shortened life than their parents.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's because of our diets.
Mhm.
So, and then again, it's also the conversation. You want to live. What's the quality of life that you're looking for? Is your quality of life being tired, fatigued, feeling bloated, not feeling good, waking up in the morning feeling dizzy, couldn't catch your breath when you go up the stairs? Or you want to be healthy, energized, sharp? We know that, you know, your immune system, 70% of it is in your gut bacteria.
Mhm.
People that tend for anxiety and depression, like half of the world suffers from anxiety.
Mhm.
It's also correlated to your diet. Of course, it's also correlated to social media and a lot of other aspects. Yeah, it's not just that.
Mhm.
But to think, that the one thing we do from the day we're born, 3 times a day, never mind we're now infants, but from that point where we're eating 3-4 times a day, once a day, twice a day, for the rest of our lives, to think that that doesn't have an effect on our body, it's kind of not understanding the things as they are.
Mhm.
This is the constant thing. This impacts everything from your
Mhm.
mindset, motivation, your health, your immune system. Um, and that's up to us. 50% is our genetics, but 50% is what we do.
Mhm.
And that's a lot.
Right. So, what you mentioned motivation, and a lot of people that are listening are kind of like either like business people, they're an entrepreneur, or they're kind of like getting started in their career. And so motivation is huge. What kind of role does food play with like motivation, energy levels, and that sort of thing?
So I think, first of all, motivation is always very overrated. And I think the
Mhm.
habits are the ones to, be the biggest thing, is because
Mhm.
motivation is maybe what gets you started, but habits is what makes you stick to it. But we do know that people that don't eat well, that, base their diet on chips and sugar and sodas and whatever it is, their motivation drops. They're more tired. Their body needs to deal with all of the toxins, with all of the sugar, with
Mhm.
all of the things. They're less sharp. Their brain is less, you have more brain fatigue. So definitely, health is also correlated to success. So then comes two options. Either option number one, when I'll be successful, I'll have more time and then I'll take care of my health. I'm too busy building my life. And then it's like, okay, you're ruining your body on the way. Or the other understanding that through being healthy and a healthy body comes a healthy mind, and you're sharper, you're brighter, you have more energy. And again, I don't believe in being perfect or being extreme, and I eat almost everything. But the 80-20 rule is something that almost everyone can take upon themselves. And I think that's something that everyone needs to be aware of, because like some people think like, okay, you need to wake up at 4 a.m. and then you need to practice the 5 a.m. club, and then you need to do meditation, go for a run in the mountains and come back and have a green juice. Great. It's not for everyone. Probably not for almost anyone.
Right.
And not to say I've done it in the past. I know that lifestyle, but the majority of the people cannot keep up with that. Right. So you need to find them a routine that works for them, that they can stick to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so funny. I tried all those things as well. You know, I remember waking up at like 3:30 in the morning, you know, and then after 3:30, I would jump into meditation. I just fall asleep in my meditation, you know, and so I started to learn, you know, let's create a routine that's more realistic for myself and something that I would actually adhere to, you know.
Exactly. So if waking up at 5:30 or 6:30 is a routine you can keep up with, then you keep up with that. Like no one said there's a golden number at 5. Some people, you know, like that routine that works for them, but some people wake up at 5 and then by 7 p.m. they crash, and then it's like whatever. So it's each person to his own. I don't agree there's only one face for success or one face for this. We're different people. We need different things at different times. We call it like to be flexible in your mindsets. And it's also the same when it comes to weight loss, like a very unset or limiting beliefs or whatever it is. It's like it's black or white, all or nothing. Like I've ruined my diet, I'm a failure, I'm not a success, and a flexible dieter or a flexible person would say, okay, so today I ate a little bit more, it's fine, I had fun. Tomorrow we go back on track. People that have that skill set of being flexible with themselves and not feeling guilty all the time, feeling ashamed all the time, have an easier time to get back on track and not to get stuck on unimportant stuff. And again, it's something that we need to acquire, that we need to learn.
Right. Absolutely. So earlier you mentioned like you help men and women. And, one thing I've learned is that, the male body is very different than the female body, especially with health, like, for example, women retain more fat than men, and so, men don't need as much fat than, more fat than women in order to be optimized. So like, have you found a difference in terms of like weight loss approach for men versus women, or is it kind of pretty much the same?
No, so listen, it's yes and no. So like both needs to have a routine, both need to eat unprocessed food, both need to drink water, sleep well, that doesn't change. But in overall, yes, men lose weight faster than women. You guys have a faster metabolism due to the fact that you have more muscle mass, less body fat. You're not as hormonal as women. And again, it's a biological difference. Women needs to give birth, needs that body fat. That's one. Number two, women tend to have more emotional eating. Men's are more executors and doers. Women tend to get into that. Like, I'm not saying, but that's the honesty, the reality from that perspective. So yes, there is different approaches. Women, tend to blame themselves a little bit more, tend to be harder criticism towards themselves. Men, not so much. Men also feel more comfortable investing in themselves. Women, so yes, there's difference. Listen, we're different. Like men and women are not the same. Like not how we think, not how we look, not how our metabolism work. Our brain is different completely. The women and men's brain are completely different from even when we are a fetus. It's different. So from that, like all feties start as like a woman, and then some get like this testosterone rush at a certain point and whatever it is. So there's a lot of like things in that, but yes, it's different. It's not the same. It's not the same. We're not the same.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you. That the approach is going to be different. And there's, of course, like you said, a foundation that everybody needs to get right. And
Yeah.
afterwards is figuring out like what are some of the limits, that you're going to face, especially for women, and how can you overcome those limits. So I love that. Now let's talk about like men. I know like right now, testosterone is something that's really big. Men want to get more energy. They want more testosterone. They want more drive. And so how could they do it naturally without like, like taking injections, but more of like through either their health and their diet?
Yeah. So first of all, testosterone is now, I think, testosterone, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but I think what about like they say 80% of the men like are now expected to have, lower testosterone. So there's a few things. So first of all, maintaining ideal body weight. Okay. So lowering your body weight, exercise, especially working on like big muscle groups like your legs and your glutes, do increase testosterone. Sleeping well, like those are very simple stuff, but they really makes a difference. Avoiding alcohol and tobacco as much as possible, and again, not completely, but they do really, really, really lower your testosterone. So that's that. And then what we see from like supplements, we've seen ashwagandha that could help that. And then we see from food wise, we have legumes, so like all the beans, we have fatty fish, dark leafy greens, avocados could help, eggs could help, berries, pomegranates, shellfish, all are like boosting testosterone stuff. Everything I've mentioned is like just regular food, nothing is like come from the Himalaya mountains, carried by the bees and into the rivers, and from the rivers into, cold extracted something, yada, yada, yada.
Oh man.
Going back to basics,
Yeah.
which is basically where it is. But working out, ashwagandha, salmon, mackerel, sardines, antioxidants diet, which is always good. So like the berries, antioxidants are in the colors. Shellfish are also healthy, leafy greens, so it's high in antioxidants. All of those things really help. Yeah. So, and I guess funny. And by the way, I'm sorry to cut you off. And I'm guessing that the testosterone has been going on for a long, long, long time. It's just now it became a conversation and it's now being tested. Before that, it was just not tested.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I think I've seen the same thing as you did, which is testosterone levels are decreasing at an alarming rate in men. And it's sad. So, just kind of wrap up, let's say someone is listening to this and they're inspired by you, Karin, to make a change in their life. They want to get healthy. Give them summarize everything in like a step-by-step process. What should they start with? Step 1, step 2, step 3, like what exactly should they do right now?
Step 1, go into your pantries, throw half of it. Number 1. Number 2, change the oils in your kitchen, in your pantry. No canola oil, vegetable oil, seed oil, corn oil, whatever it is, throw it. Use avocado oil and olive oil only. Okay. Number 3, try to have structured meals. If 3 meals a day for you are too much, have 2 meals a day. 2 meals a day. Make sure each meal contains protein, chicken, fish, meat, whatever it is, vegetables, and a complex carb. Very simple, very easy. Drink 1 glass of water every hour. Walk 30 minutes a day. Simple. Start with that. Like, one thing is that we get overwhelmed. It's too many things at once. It's like, I need to do this and this and this, and I need to cook all of my meals, and you can eat out, whatever it is. Just keep a routine, keep a structure, start from there.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Karin. Really appreciate this. I think you've probably inspired a lot of people listening once this recording comes out. Where can people find you?
So they can find me on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, Karin Adoni Nutrition, or on my website, karinadoni.com. Would love to help to answer, any questions that you have. I also put lots of information on my social media. So I'm always there, me and my team, and would love to help and answer any questions that everyone has. And thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karin. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.